Ecopia's expert loan modification provides the tools to exponentially increase your chances of success because we put years of knowledge and experience at your fingertips. You know exactly what the banks are looking for. Now I'm going to go into the software and give you an example of how this works. Let's just say you decide to do this as a business. Immediately you will get a website when we launch, and you could simply just send customers or people that might be interested in business to that website, because we believe everything has to be as simple as possible, whether it be for a customer or somebody wanting to do this as a business. So for example, if you're in your local store or department store and you hear somebody needs help with a loan mod or credit restoration, what have you, you can simply give them a business card or just give them a link to your website, and hopefully it'll be just enough for them to want to either do this as a customer or a business. There'll be videos on the website if you want. It'll literally explain why we're better than everybody else. I don't know if there's any competition of Ecopia. I haven't seen it yet. I don't know how they could with all the experience and everything put into this, and you'll understand that in a second. But let's just say they go to your website, they want to get the software and need to get loan modified, and they pay for the software right through your website. They go directly into the online software. You do not have to download anything. This is all an online tool. And it'll track it. You get paid immediately. It tracks your customers, your people in business, everything. And the first thing that they're going to come to is this welcome screen. And if you notice, there will be a real person explaining all the do's and don'ts of what you need to do or what you need to know before even getting into the software. Also, there will be a checklist and a tutorial, a brief tutorial for every customer member, so they know exactly what they need and what not to do, what to do before even going into the software. When you're done with that, you click Start, and you go right into the software. And if you notice, it's simple data entry. The biggest thing is keeping it as simple as possible. Enter your name, telephone, etc., all your basic information. If you need help, you hover over the help. It gives you tips. If you click on it, it gives you a bigger tip. In the active software, it'll have an actual video in each section explaining every tip, so that way they don't even have to read it. Like I said, as simple as possible. Enter the subject property information. And if you notice something here, it's empty here in this toolbar. There's a reason for that. As soon as you click self-employed, let's just say in this case there's two people on the loan and they're both self-employed, and then they click Next. If you notice, this toolbar is not empty anymore. Why? Because now there's two profit and loss tabs that have been added because they chose self-employed for two people. The reason why they weren't there before is because we don't want to confuse anybody. Why put it there if they don't need it? I'll give you an example of this. If you click on profit and loss, it's very simple. Just enter the corporation name, last 6 months of deposits, and your monthly expenses, accounting, advertising, automobile, etc. It'll figure out the gross net and the gross net income you need based on the banker investor guidelines in order to get this loan modified. You do not need an accountant or a CPA to do this. Most negotiators will take a handwritten one-page profit and loss. Is that correct, Al?
Absolutely, sir.
I'm going to go back to borrow information, and I'm going to uncheck this because in this case we're not going to say self-employed. Now, if you notice when you go to the next page, under lender and mortgage information, there are 3 banks. The reason for that is a lot of people have a first, a second, or a third mortgage. This covers all 3. So as soon as you drop down the box and you choose your bank, in this case we'll say Avail Mortgage, all the available guidelines, calculations, and formulas go throughout the entire software. This is very important and crucial to the outcome of this loan modification. If it's a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac loan, you simply choose Freddie or Fannie Mae, and all their guidelines go throughout the mortgage, throughout the software. If you do not know if it's a Fannie or Freddie owned loan, you click Freddie Mac Search, enter the basic information. It'll tell you if it's a Fannie or Freddie Mac loan. It's that simple. Now, if you notice, you enter the loan number. If you notice when you get to unpaid balance, the first thing that happens, as soon as you click on unpaid balance, a window pops up. And there's a lot of this throughout the software. Because if you remember in the beginning in the PowerPoint, I was showing you that how crucial it is to get the accurate total unpaid balance. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but this pops up automatically. It says, please note, it is crucial to the outcome of your loan modification to get an accurate total unpaid balance. Please contact your bank requesting a payoff immediately. They may be able to give you this information verbally over the phone via fax or mail. Now, most of the time you can call the bank and they'll give you this over the phone. If not, they could fax to your mail like it says. Also, we ask you to get this information: remaining term in the mortgage, current rate, monthly taxes, and monthly insurance. The reason for that is when you enter your information into the software, when you look at your mortgage statement, it might not show exactly what the bank has in their system, and that's what the banks go by. So let's, for example, say your monthly taxes have changed and you did not receive your escrow letter. Well, if you go based off your current mortgage statement, those taxes may be inaccurate. Well, that can make a big difference in the outcome of your loan modification. So as soon as you're done, or if you want to call now, just click Call Now. It automatically takes you to the call log and gives you the backdoor numbers directly to loss mitigation home retention, so you can call right then and there and get the information, enter it in the blanks, save. It's that simple. Go back to the screen. When you're done with this page, you click Next. This is just real estate owned, schedule of real estate owned, assets, liability, self-explanatory. Click Next. Then you're going to come to the income screen. Okay, now this is also very crucial because in finance, if I ask somebody how much they make a week and they tell me $400 a week, and I ask them how much they make a month, most people will tell me $1,600 a month because they'll take $400 a week multiplied by 4 weeks. Well, there's approximately 4.3 weeks into a month, so that is inaccurate. So if somebody's in finance like I am, because I've been a lender for almost 15 years, I would take that $400 a week, multiply by 52 weeks, divide by 12, and that would give me $1,733. Well, that's a $133 difference in income. That can make a huge difference in the outcome of the loan modification. Well, guess what? Some banks or investors do it differently even than that. For example, some banks might take your year-to-date pay stub, if you're a W-2 employee, take the start and end date of the pay, year-to-date income, and find a daily rate of what you make and bring it up to current. Well, that could be $300, $400, $500 or more off. So the good thing about this software is that you click on Calculator, it asks basic questions. As soon as the customer enters the questions, it'll automatically figure out their gross income based on banks or investors' guidelines for them, so they do not have to worry about that. It even takes it a step further. If, let's say, for example, you make $100,000 a year and $20,000 of that is commissions, overtime, or bonuses, and as of last week on your last paycheck, that was on there because you were getting it, but now because the economy is bad, the company's starting to cut back, you're no longer going to get that $20,000 in extra income. Well, the problem with that is if you send it current income to the bank now, they're going to be inaccurate by $20,000. So in the software, it's simply going to ask them, do you make overtime, commissions, and bonuses? If you click yes, it'll say, are you going to continue? If you say no, it's going to automatically generate a letter letting the bank know you're no longer going to get that overtime, bonus, or commission. If you say yes, the same happens. So this way, it eliminates any errors or problems in the future, which could cause major delays. When you're done with income, click next. Debt payment, this is your auto loans, credit card, etc. Self-explanatory, click next again. If you notice when you come to the expense screen, there's many expenses, and this is one of the other real crucial parts of this software. If you remember when you first chose your banks in the beginning, if you chose Bank of America, Avail, or what have you, all those guidelines are going on in the background throughout. You might not see that, but it is happening through the whole process. And then now we have an accurate income. Well, once you get to the expense screen, if you start entering expenses here and you start putting too many expenses based on that investor's guidelines, it's going to automatically pop up a window stating the same. For example, it might say, according to Avail Mortgage guidelines, you may be out of guidelines. Can you cut back on some expenses? We're not saying lie. We're saying if you spend $500 a week in entertainment, can you stop for now? If you put too little of expenses, it's going to say the same thing. Do you have any more expenses based on bank or investor guidelines? Because some banks will allow pet expenses, some don't. Some will allow charity, some don't. Some will allow medical, some don't. Some don't even use credit cards in their guidelines like we did in that example. So this will configure it for them ahead of time. One other thing I want to show you that's very important, I want to go back to make sure we chose, let me go back to subject property, because I want to show you something. Okay, if you choose Freddie Mac, okay, let's go back to expenses. Let's just say we chose Freddie Mac. If you notice, as soon as you get the groceries and toiletries, as soon as you click this box, look what happens. A warning pops up and says Freddie Mac alert. Please note, Freddie Mac guidelines allows for a maximum of $350 per month cost for monthly household groceries or food for the first person, and allows for an additional $150 per month for each additional person. If you put greater than that or more than that, it'll automatically red flag it and you get denied. Okay, so we want to let the people know this ahead of time so it stops that from happening. Also in active software, if they still want to continue to put a greater amount, they can click confirm and a window will pop up where they can actually enter a reason why it's greater. So that way it pushes it through instead of sits on the negotiator's desk getting it denied. Okay, there's a lot of things throughout the software that do that. When you're done with that, you click next and you go to hardship letter. Basically, this is just what caused you to fall behind. What is your hardship? And I always like to joke with Brian, incarceration, but in this case we'll click reduced income and it gives you an example of a hardship letter. And based on the example, we'll ask you questions. What changes or events have occurred since your loan originated that caused you to fall behind? When did the changes or events occur? It'll even give you an example answer. Well, at the time of originating a loan, I had a good paying job, my salary is enough to cover, etc., etc. Just type your answer. It's that simple. It'll ask three questions. Answer those three questions. It'll automatically populate it on a template based on the bank or investor guidelines for you exactly how they want that hardship letter. The reason for that is it eliminates any errors or issues or problems later, because I've had people give me a 5-page handwritten hardship letter. It explains a whole mess of things you do not need. It could actually kill the deal. So this will keep that from happening. When you're done, there's even a choice for an audit. Okay, you don't have to do this necessarily, but it is here if they want to do it. You just simply enter the blanks, and it can print up an audit based on the bank that underwrote the loan, not the mortgage broker, the banks that actually gave you the loan, and point out all the statutes they violated when they underwrote that loan. And it could be a 30, 60-page report you put with it to give you more leverage with the banks. You don't necessarily need this, but it will be here if the customer member wants to use it, because most companies charge $500 to $800 per mortgage just to do the audit. So if you had 2 mortgages, it's double the price. Okay. When you're done with that, you go to Key Findings. It'll recommend what you should request, whether it be a 2% rate, in this case 33 mortgage, pre and post mod information. If you like it, you click Documents. This is a demo, but it'll give you an example. You click on View Documents, gives you print instructions, has a cover page based on the banks you chose, hardship letter based on your answers, pre and post mod information. This is where you're currently at now with the mortgage. This is what we're requesting, and everything else you need to get this loan modified. You simply print it, fax it, you're done. It not only covers a HAMP, but also covers the manual loan modification. So if a bank does use HAMP, they'll use the package to do that first. If for some reason you do not get approved, the rest of the package they'll default to try and get you approved for the loan modification. So it covers both. You don't have to do things twice. If for some reason you get denied, you can go back into the software, click Denied. It'll give you another thing to recommend another thing you do. Can you rent out a room for $500, for example? If you get denied again, give you another example. If you get denied a third time, it might say something along the lines of call the bank and find out what they have for your expenses. The reason for that is many of these banks are pulling your credit report, and up to 80% of Americans have something inaccurate on your credit. So, for example, if you had a $400 car payment and you no longer have the car, you're off by $400 in expenses. That's a huge difference. You could simply call them up, let them know you no longer have the car, they'll remove it off your credit. It's that simple. Also ask what their income is. Some of these people are not trained properly, and they may not figure out your income correctly based on guidelines. This software does. You can correct it and give them the accurate guideline or accurate income based on the guidelines. If for some reason they need help, you can click on Help, and there's a couple choices they have. You can click on Live Help, and an actual live technical support person can come on, answer any of their questions, and even with their permission go onto their computer and enter everything into the software for them if they have to. They can also they could also use this artificial intelligence. This is an actual help desk. Artificial intelligence, 23,000 different responses already pre-entered into the software and growing. And you can actually have a conversation with her if you want. To give you an example, if you have a question about HAMP.
The HAMP program was created by President Obama. This program helps borrowers get approved for a rate as low as 2%. Most banks try to approve you with this program before trying to do an in-house manual loan modification. The guidelines are different from manual loan modifications.
If you have a question about income, same thing.
It may be best to use the income calculator. This will give you a more precise income figure based on the bank guidelines.
And there actually will be a link right here going right to the income calculator. If this isn't enough, you can simply go to the online community site, which is much like a Facebook, for example.